Hi, I'm Camille Theobald, and we are here in Dumbo, Brooklyn at the Kings County Distillery. And here the founder and master distiller is Colin Spoolman. This is so cool, just walking in was such a cool experience. So what got you into distilling in the first place?
I guess it had to do with traveling back to Kentucky and visiting where I'm from is a dry county, so there's actually no liquor stores or bars, and in fact there are bootleggers who are in some cases making moonshine. So I would bring that Kentucky moonshine back to Brooklyn and kind of share it with people, and it was really through their enthusiasm and curiosity and kind of that cultural interest in this kind of part of culture that had long been sort of forgotten, that I got interested in kind of the mechanism of distillation, and then moonshine, and then really moonshine's more aged sort of cousin, which is bourbon.
So what made you decide to name it Kings County Distillery?
It was kind of this insider way to refer to Brooklyn in a way without being so overt. The business first got started in Williamsburg, and then quickly kind of outgrew that space. And the Navy Yard has a leasing office, so they actually came to one of our tours at our old building and suggested this place, which is the Paymaster's office. So it's the former financial administration building for what used to be the U.S. Navy. Well, initially it seemed way too big for what we would ever need, and now we've actually outgrown it and have moved back to Bushwick for some of our barrel aging.
So we're down in the distillery area. What are these?
So each of these big white bags is 1 ton organic cracked corn that comes from upstate New York. So that's the main ingredient in both our moonshine and our bourbon, which are kind of the two main products that we make. So the first step of the process is mashing, which is basically cooking the grains into a very thick porridge. Because we're using corn in the South, we call that grits. So that happens in this big steel vessel over here, which is called the mash cooker. 250 gallons of water, 300 pounds of corn, 55 pounds of malted barley. That's the mash bill or recipe that we use. The next phase of the process is fermentation, which is what's happening in this fun wooden vat. So we'll sprinkle yeast over the top of the tank, and the malted barley has enzymes that are converting the starch to sugar. So we have this very sugary liquid, and the yeast will consume this sugar and oxygen, and they'll make alcohol and carbon dioxide. So this is very similar to making beer. A lot of distillers call this liquid distiller's beer. This is really sort of the first step in making whiskey is to make beer. So this is actually the whiskey as it's coming directly off the still. So what's happening during distillation in these big copper stills is that there's a stainless steel coil on the inside with steam in it, and that heats the liquid to a boil, and alcohol has a lower boiling point than water. So the alcohol boils off first and then hits this front part of the still that has a bundle of cold water pipes, which creates a lot of surface area. And so the steam hits that and then condenses and runs out the front of the still. Then put it into barrels and age it to become whiskey. Or in the case of moonshine, we'll just dilute it and bottle it as the white spirit as it comes out of the still.
So we're here in the barrel room, or aging room, is what you call it. How long has each one of these been aging?
It depends a little bit on the individual barrel and the size of the barrel, because what's happening during the aging process is that there are sap in the wood and caramelized sap in the wood that then is infusing into the whiskey as it's aging. These smaller barrels will age for about 2 summers, so that can be anywhere from 18 months to 26 months. But then we have some larger barrels that will go as long as 7 to 12 years.
When you choose the barrels, do you decide on a specific type of wood?
It has to be oak to be called bourbon. That's the way the law is written. So, in fact, a lot of bourbon making is actually given by law. So it has to be made from corn. It has to be distilled in a particular way. It has to be aged in a new charred oak barrel. So you have to meet all of those requirements to have your whiskey, to put the word bourbon on the label.
All right, so now that we've gone through and seen how everything is made, sat in the aging room, we are now going to taste this awesome whiskey and moonshine.
Most important part of being here, obviously.
Yes, definitely my favorite part.
So we're gonna start with the moonshine. So this is fresh off the stills, just corn, barley, yeast, and water, so super simple. And when it comes off, it's about 70% alcohol, so we proof it down to 40 and put it in the bottle. So,
All right.
yeah.
And this is Becca, our tasting expert. Just want to point that out. All right, I've never had moonshine.
It's like a silver tequila or
Okay.
a grappa or eau de vie, any other pot distilled unaged spirit. Don't be afraid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually pretty smooth.
Yeah, people are pleasantly
Yeah.
surprised. So when something bourbon is basically the aged version of the moonshine. So you were in the barrel room, you saw how the moonshine becomes bourbon. So now tasting it back to back, you can really tell what the time in the barrel does to the booze, basically. A lot of people say that bourbons have caramel flavors, and that comes from the caramelization of the sap in the oak when it's being charred.
Okay.
Yeah. No hesitation there.
I'm used to that one. Wow, there's so much flavor.
Yeah. And then last but not least, Colin calls this our popular and controversial chocolate whiskey.
That's very good though. So this was Kings County Distillery in Brooklyn. Find them at kingscountydistillery.com. Thank you so much, Colin
Thanks,
and
Camille.
Becca. This was awesome, and I can't wait to drink more of this whiskey.